Welcome back to Thriving Your Body with Homeopathy series, where we discuss what homeopathy can do for you and your loved ones, especially if you're suffering from a chronic health condition. Today, we're bringing back a very special guest, a passionate educator and a highly experienced doctor, and homeopath, Dr. Shahram Ayoubzadeh. As you will remember, Dr. Shahram graced us with his presence in the opening interview of the series. So please go back to the first episode to learn about Dr. Shahram and his homeopathic journey. And I also introduced him at more length in that first episode. So as a reminder, here's a few words from Dr. Shahram's biography. So he's the Dean of the highly accredited Canadian College of Homeopathic Medicine in Toronto, Canada. He practices as a naturopathic doctor and homeopathic physician in Canada, and he is also trained as medical doctor. He graduated from the Faculty of Medicine in Dakar, Senegal, specializing in tropical disease and leprosy. Since his arrival in Canada in 1987, Dr. Shahram has done extensive study in the field of holistic and natural healing methods and has been a practicing homeopath and educator for almost 35 years. So let me welcome Dr. Shahram Ayoubzadeh to our video series today. Welcome. It's great to see you back, Dr. Shahram. And, I'm very grateful that you accepted our invitation again and came back to the show. I cannot wait for what we're going to be talking about today. I would like to focus our interview today on the experience of being a patient of homeopathy. But before we delve in, is there anything you would like to start with to share with our audience to open this interview?
Hi, Monica. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on here. It's a real pleasure to be part of this webinar. Homeopathy is my passion, so I'm very happy that we're talking about a homeopathic consultation and what happens during that consultation. How do we diagnose? What kind of results to expect? I have practiced many different modalities of medicine, conventional and alternative. What I found very unique about homeopathy, what really intrigues me about homeopathy, is that a homeopathic consultation is truly a session where you give equal importance to every single symptom from head to toe on the physical level, but you'd also delve very deeply on the emotional life of the person, everything that they have gone through from their childhood until today. Pay attention to their fears, to their traumas, to their dreams, and pay attention to their cognitive, intellectual challenges, to their existential challenges, the spiritual challenges. So it's a truly holistic consultation. I don't know any other holistic medicine that gives as much importance to what is happening in the dream of a patient than whether the patient reacts to heat or cold or craves something. So that's why I think everybody deserves to have an experience of a very deep homeopathic consultation. So that's why I'm really excited to be here. I was a couple of months ago, I was doing an interview in front of our students with the patients, and we prescribed a remedy. And the remedy has worked so well, and the patient really has expressed how much improvement she had within minutes of taking the remedy also. But she shared something about the consultation itself. And if it is time, I'd like to share maybe 1 minute or two of what she said about the consultation as well. If I can share my screen.
Okay, whenever you're ready. Okay, here we go.
Okay, let's see if I have to go to this, and here it is.
The last session had a really big impact on me in terms of the psychological, that session felt incredibly psychological. It felt like I was in a Jungian session with a therapist, which I absolutely thought was amazing. And I literally, if I'd had this down, I could have done it for days and days. So it was really, I thought that you were absolutely just masterful at the kind of questions you were asking me. So what it's brought up is from that is this feeling of freedom and obedience, obedience to responsibility and then freedom. And I'm part of a group called Body Tales. So I can't remember if I mentioned this, but it's a women's group, and we move and we storytell, and we're witnessed. We witness each other in that storytelling movement work. And we had a performance last weekend, and it's all improv, but I usually think of a story, or a story comes to me, and the story that came to me, and hands down, I knew I was going to do it about 2 weeks before the day, was this story that I told you about, being held really tightly by my mother and grandmother when I was a child, and then at 13, basically rebelling and, going down to the ocean for 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what I wanted to really share with you, this is about someone who has done a lot of therapies already. She knows about Jungian therapy, even though homeopathic consultation is not following a therapy approach. But the fact that I really listened to her physical symptom in depth, and through her physical symptoms, I could show her that the constriction she's experiencing, the contraction, the restrictions that she feels in the physical body is connected to something much deeper that reveals itself in different sensations in her body, and reveals itself through dreams and fears and phobias that she has, so how everything is deeply connected. So at the end of the consultation, it looked like everything came together for her. And then, of course, that's on its own is healing, I would say. But from the moment that she took the remedy, there was she uses the word bliss. It's just an experience of instant bliss that came over her. And then the headaches and the she came in for chronic digestive problem. Within 2 days of taking the remedy, the digestive issues went away. It's just so amazing to see for someone who for 50 years has been suffering from something, then suddenly you do a very deep consultation, you find the perfect remedy. It was a rare remedy, it wasn't a common remedy. That's why some other homeopaths couldn't think of that remedy, or because they didn't spend enough time. So what I want to share today with the audience is that if we really listen to everything about the patient, if we go very deep and try to find out what is the common denominators of all the symptoms of the patient and find the remedy, the consultation itself is very profound because you get to see what needs to be cured, and the remedy has a very deep and very spontaneous effect on the patient.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And this actually leads us to the first question that I had, which we say that homeopathy focuses on treating the patient and not the disease, right? We look at the person that comes to us and not just trying to fix their physical problems or their diagnosis. So let's delve deeper into that statement, and of course, if you tell us if you agree, and tell us more about it. What does it really mean to treat the patient and not the disease?
Well, I should say that even within the homeopathic circle, there is a split on, are we really treating the disease or are we treating the patient, or what does it really mean to treat the person but don't treat the disease? I think both are really the same. What we should say is that we shouldn't treat a label. We shouldn't treat a migraine. We shouldn't treat an asthma, because once you do that, then you see migraine as a separate entity than the asthma of the patient, and the asthma becomes a separate entity than the constipation. When you go after the symptoms, you end up what conventional medicine is doing, which is a medication for migraine, a puffer for the asthma, a laxative for the constipation, because then we are treating the disease or diseases. And from the homeopathic perspective, what needs to be cured is the disease, but disease is everywhere. It's affecting the whole person. So because of that, you're actually treating the whole person. You're not treating parts of the person. So it is true that in homeopathic diagnosis, we treat the patient, but you don't need to treat the person. The person without the disease is not a patient, is healthy. But what is making the person sick is making them sick in every expression, whether they are aware of it or not. The disease process is responsible for their dreams, is responsible for their hobbies, is responsible for their likes and dislikes, is responsible for their fears and phobias. It's also responsible for whether their headache is throbbing, or is this constricting, or is this a heaviness. So the disease process is everywhere. Therefore, you just don't treat a migraine, you don't treat a headache, you treat the entirety of the person not being well, and then you expect the remedy to cure the totality of the patient. And if it didn't, it means your remedy is partial. You have to go a bit deeper to find out what is that deeper layer that you haven't identified yet.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for that clarification. And, we know that a homeopathic consultation goes really deep and ask a lot of questions that are detailed. And sometimes I think patients who come in for the first time may feel like, wow, I didn't expect to get so much attention. It can be almost really uplifting and healing on its own as a consultation, of course, the beginning of it. So let's delve a little deeper also into this whole concept of how a homeopathic consultation differs from your conventional medical appointment.
Well, it is different in every single aspect. So it's actually, I should say, there is no similarity between a conventional consultation and a homeopathic consultation. I would say in North America, we are lucky enough, and this is a good thing, that our patients have gone through their medical doctors, they have done all the lab tests, they have done all the x-rays and MRI. So they have an understanding of what is happening in the body. So I have patients who come up with 20 pages of reports from different specialists. And I have also patients who come and say they cannot find anything at all. Everything is fine, but I'm suffering from different things. And they keep telling me it's in your head, but I know it is not in my head. And the antidepressant they gave me did nothing for. So it is, in that way, I'd say, because at least in Canada, healthcare is free, everybody almost goes through that because it doesn't cost them anything. But the outcome is not always what they expect. They want to be cured. They don't want to be put on a medication for a few years or for the rest of their lives. And they want an answer they want to know what is making them sick. What is the cause? What needs to be cured in them? So a homeopathic consultation in that regard is very different, because the homeopath is looking for what is it really that is making the person sick, rather than being concerned with how can I remove the headache. You are concerned about how can I remove what is causing the headache, or how can I allow the body to heal itself. Sexually, homeopathic remedies don't cure anything. They just help the body to heal itself. They unlock the system. I've talked about that in the previous session that we were. So this means when I was a medical doctor, I could see 50 to 80 patients a day. As a homeopath, I can do that. I should say there are some homeopaths in India that see 100 patients a day. So the person can come in and we can still give a remedy for a headache and a remedy for asthma. And that's wonderful. Homeopathy in that way can be very similar, except using a homeopathic medicine. But what is also unique to homeopathy is that you can spend 4 or 5 hours with a patient, or 2 hours with a patient. Most homeopaths spend an hour and a half to 2. I tend to spend 4 or 5 hours with most of my patients because they have seen so many other therapists. I get more advanced cases also. But within that 4 hours, I know what to do with the patient. As a medical doctor, I don't know what to do with the patient after 10 minutes, after 20 minutes. Even if I spend 3 hours with them, I don't know what questions to ask. But within a homeopathic consultation, the first question I ask is what needs to be cured. Now, just to say what is different, the real difference in conventional medicine and homeopathic medicine is that the definition of the disease is very different. In conventional medicine, we label a group of symptoms, and we have a syndrome like migraine or pneumonia or CP or whatever, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. In homeopathic medicine, to understand what causes the disease, we do provings. And I think this is an extremely important and highly scientific way to understand what causes the disease. Provings mean you get a group of healthy individuals, 20, 30, 50 different healthy individuals that they're not sick, and you give them a substance, and you see what kind of symptoms this substance causes in that group of people, and you look at the group as one, because not everybody has the same susceptibility or sensitivity to. So you give this remedy in a highly diluted homeopathic form or in its crude form, it doesn't matter. You just study the effect of a remedy. And then you look at the reaction of those 40, 50 people to this substance. And then you will see that the substance is able to produce 50, 100, 200, 500 different symptoms. In some patients, it may cause asthma. In other patients, it may cause eczema. In some people, cause insomnia and so on. But at the end, we get to see that the substance is able to produce this kind of pathologies in the person. And then we test another substance in a group of patients, and we see different pictures of pathology. And the third substance creates a third picture of the pathology. So for understanding of what needs to be cured, and the fact that we know these things are connected to each other is because one substance is able to produce all these symptoms in different individuals. So when a patient comes to see me, I know that if they have 20 symptoms or 50 symptoms, all of those could be caused by one thing. Because in experiments, we have seen that it is true. One substance can cause many symptoms. What I do during a consultation, I do a reverse engineering of the process. I see a patient that comes and share with me 100, 200 different characteristics of who they are on all levels. And then I put them all together. And thanks to the homeopathic softwares that we have today, and thanks to 35 years of clinical experience, I try to bring 200 symptoms together to see, is there a substance in nature that is able to produce this kind of pathology? Then I would say the pathology is this. The pathology is that it looks like you're reacting to sulfur. It looks like you're reacting to phosphate or so on. Or it looks like you have been poisoned by this substance because all your pathology looks like this. So in that way, I'm not telling him that you're suffering from migraine. I'm telling him that this is what is causing your totality. This is how your system is locked. This is an example I used in the previous webinar. And then I have a key that is known to lock that system. So I use the key to unlock the person.
Yes, that's beautiful. Exactly. And everybody has a unique totality that they present. So this is really a detective work for you, right? To be able to unravel and uncover what is really happening and who is this person in front of us, which I find absolutely fascinating. And I think it really honors the people who come into the homeopathic doctors as true, as human beings as well, which is a beautiful dimension of homeopathy. Very well. So for people who maybe are considering to actually see a homeopathic doctor, have never done it before, is there anything a new patient should know before his or her first visit? Are there important questions they should ask the homeopath? What kind of advice would you give to a fresh new patient?
Well, I personally prefer that my patients don't prepare themselves for me, because I don't want this to become a very intellectual process. I want it to be very spontaneous, and I want things to come as they come. I used to, before, give a 30-page questionnaires to patients to prepare themselves for. But then I realized the consultation doesn't go as deep and it's not as spontaneous as I like it to be. So So what I mean by that, the patients being prepared for a homeopathic consultation is extremely important. But I do prepare my patients, either if they have watched some of the videos that I have given on what a homeopathic consultation is, then they are prepared for my questions. If they haven't, then I spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, doesn't matter how long it takes, to explain to them what is it that we're going to do during the consultation, which is really sharing whatever I shared with you, that I need them to give equal importance to all their physical, emotional, spiritual, existential, energetic, cognitive aspects of who they are. I tell them that I see them as a tree with many different branches. I think all the branches are connected together. I want to find a remedy for the trunk of their tree. So then when I ask them questions about their dreams, they don't think I'm a psychoanalyst. When I ask them questions about their cravings, food cravings, they don't think I'm a nutritionist. When I ask them about their digestive issues, they don't think I'm a gastroenterologist, because a homeopath is all of those, really. A homeopath sees the totality of the person as one thing, so everything is equally important. So being prepared for a thorough homeopathic consultation requires the patient to really listen to themselves from head to toe, from the time they wake up until they go to bed. And while they're sleeping, their body is giving them symptoms. Our responsibility as a patient is to pay attention to those symptoms. And symptom is everything. If your skin is dry, it's a symptom. If your nails are splitting, it's a symptom. If your feet are smelly, it's a symptom. If you had a dry mouth, it's a symptom. But you can only be aware of those if you pay attention to. But unfortunately, because conventional medicine doesn't pay attention to those details, the patients don't pay attention to their body either. So I encourage my patients to, before the first consultation, in between the consultation, for every follow-up, to constantly observe themselves, just to see how their body is talking to them on different levels. Pay attention, keep a journal if they think they're going to forget. So when they come, then when I ask them, how's your digestive system? They realize, oh yeah, I have been observing myself for the last 2 weeks. I go to the bathroom every 3 days. I thought I'm going every day, or something like that, yes. And so the more they know themselves, the easier it is. But the point I wanted to make about spontaneity is that spontaneity is very important for a homeopathic consultation. Spontaneity means when I ask a question, something happens within the patient. It can be a memory that comes to them. It can be a voice they hear. It can be just their mouth becomes very bitter. It could be that they start sweating. The body has many different ways to react to an answer, to a question. The body responds in all those things. I often have patients who say, I was going to say this, but it doesn't make sense. I'm going to say it anyway. And I tell my patients, what doesn't make sense comes from your unconscious mind. And unconscious mind is cellular memory. Cellular memory is what is wrong at the DNA level. So whatever doesn't make sense is way more important than what makes sense. So if I ever ask you a question, please share with me what doesn't make sense first. And then if you want to tell me what makes sense, then that's your intellectual mind. It's probably not that relevant anyway. So that's why I said the consultation needs to be very spontaneous, and people have to be present and listen to the question, incorporate the question, and then allow their body, their mind, their soul, their 5 senses to respond to. So I encourage them, if I ask them a question and they felt nauseated, to share with me that they had a nausea, or they smelled something bad. It doesn't happen, but it happens once in a while. Their memory just goes to something, and then something comes up, and that is very important to know.
Wow. So the patient also sort of needs to become a bit of a detective and really closely observe themselves and how they respond, how they react. And
very so. Except I tell the patients, do not try to find connection, because then you're doing an intellectual. You just observe. Let the homeopath do the connection between.
Yes, beautiful. And so I wanted to ask a couple questions regarding more the forms of disease that homeopathy can treat, and because we're focusing this series more on chronic conditions. So can you tell us a bit, we know that homeopathy can be very deeply curative in chronic diseases. And so what can homeopathy actually, we know how it differs in terms of the first interview, the first appointment, and then the following appointments. But when it comes to chronic disease, chronic conditions, what can homeopathy do if conventional medicine does not help? And how does that, how can it do it? How can it do that?
There are two things that are important to recognize. The first thing is there are many different ways to practice homeopathy, and there are many homeopaths who have their own style of practicing. As I mentioned earlier, you will find homeopaths who spend half an hour with their patients, others who spend 5 hours. Some homeopaths spend a full day with their patient. So all of those are homeopathy. We can treat people acutely for their symptoms, or we can treat them for chronic diseases. And both of them are very valid and important, and people will need. But when it comes to chronic diseases, it's really important to recognize that the body has lost its ability to heal itself long time ago. That's what a chronic disease is. And we have to ask ourselves why the body doesn't heal it, why the body doesn't heal that headache and this asthma and this whatever the patient is suffering from. That the case that I showed you at 30 seconds, it was a case of depression, a lot of heaviness in the case, a lot of chronic digestive issues, and really strong headaches with some anxiety. All of those mixed together for years. So, but by listening to the totality and finding what needs to be cured in a patient, the remedy acts very magical on the patient. So homeopathy doesn't have a limit. The limit is our capacity to be able to understand what needs to be cured in the patient, and whether we are able to find out a remedy that can correct that. So the more of remedies a homeopath knows, the deeper he has a knowledge of remedies. The questions that the homeopath asks, all of those are going to make a difference for success or failure. Now, I should say at the same time, some patients are extremely lucky, and within half an hour of consultation, you can see what needs to be cured in them, because the remedy they need is a very common remedy. So I don't want to make everybody feel that in order to find the perfect remedy, you need to spend 5 hours or 5 days with a patient. But some people need simple remedies, which means remedies that we know really well. But most people don't need common remedies. Most people need a remedy unique to their estate. And finding that remedy requires a very deep and very thorough investigation of every aspect, and being able to think beyond the most common remedies. We have 125 remedies that are commonly used in homeopathy, but we have 3,000 remedies in our repertoire, and the patient may need any of those. So during our course at the CCHM, we prepare the students to be able to think of any other possibility of the remedy. So to have access to those 3,000 other remedies, to have a system of how to classify remedies and how to gradually identify what needs to be cured in a patient based on a kingdom or a family or a subfamily or a class, and to get to the individual. Most of it done on the third year of the homeopathic teaching, and some of it is done in the post-grad level to prepare the students to think outside of the box and think about those rare remedies as well. So this is to say that I never tell a patient your case is incurable, because even when a patient is about to die in 10 days, I can still help them with a lot of their estate. I can help their constipation. I can help their despair. I may not be able to bring them back because it's too late, but I can help them during the transition in a much better way. Mm-hmm. But I have also seen very terminal cases, stage 4s, completely turning back. I have seen homeopathic remedies doing amazing, miraculous healing. So I never know how the body is going to respond. My job is to find out what needs to be cured, give it to the patient, and let the rest to the universe and to the patient to see what they're going to do with this remedy.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So would you agree with the statement that homeopathy intends to eradicate the disease rather than masking, managing, or palliating it? And is this always true? If so, or when is it really not true anymore?
Well, the purpose of homeopathy is to allow the body to express. We know homeopathy doesn't mask because the vast majority of patients who respond really deeply to the remedies, they first go through an aggravation. So before they feel better, they feel worse. When you feel worse, at least you know that you're not masking, you're not suppressing. I'd much rather give a remedy to a patient who suffers from chronic headache or suffers from depression, and then hear that they took the remedy and their headache got much worse, or they cried for a day nonstop, and then they felt so much better, then I know nothing is masked. Then if the patient said, I took the remedy and my headache went away and I felt better for a day or two, because that could be masking in a homeopathic way, because the body didn't really express what needed to be cured. I'm not saying that an aggravation has to happen every single time, but when there is an aggravation, I have more assurance that nothing is being masked. The body is expressing itself. Homeopathic remedies can heal one part of the person and not heal the rest if you give a partial remedy. You can give a remedy for a branch, and that branch will get better. But you have to make sure that other branches are not growing bigger. If you do that, you could say that maybe the disease is shifting from one place to another. So if the headache is better and constipation is much worse, homeopaths don't like that. If the constipation is much better and headache are worse, it's okay at the beginning, but if the headaches don't get better and get worse, homeopaths don't like that. You have to see the response everywhere, and everything starts healing together, not at the same pace, but you have to see the remedy is expressing the body constantly. So homeopathic remedies by nature are not suppressive, but a true homeopathic remedy, that's the remedy that really reveals the truth to a patient, will cause an aggravation first, and then it brings about a very deep healing that lasts for a very long time. If a remedy acts only for a day, we know it's not a deep remedy. If a remedy acts for a month, we know it's a much deeper remedy.
Okay, great. So, this concludes the first part of our interview today, and we're going to jump into case study presentation. And Dr. Shahram agreed to share a patient's case with us today, and I think this will be a great way to show the viewers, how does it really look like, what to expect, what does it really mean to have that consultation with a homeopath with an example. So, would you like to start, or introduce us to what you're going to share today?
Let me share my screen with you.
Okay.
So, this is, let me, do you see my screen?
Okay, yes, we do now.
This is a patient that's, I took her case almost 2 years ago now, I would say. This was during a course I was giving to a group of homeopaths called Road to Clinical Mastery. I invited these homeopaths who were present to bring cases that they have had challenges with, that they have tried remedies or other homeopaths have treated and they haven't responded enough. So one of our participants brought this case of this lady. She was suffering from neurological pain. She had very intense headaches. She just want to make sure I didn't miss the beginning of, no, this is the, said I have what they call this crushed disc. So her cervical 4, 5, 6 vertebrae have been crushed. They used me as a guinea pig and poked me and injected me with Botox. My neck and shoulder and my abilities are much worse since. They told me this was supposed to help me, but I found out it's just poison they put in my body. She said on a spiritual level, I have dreams, I have visions, I'm a seer. There is something on the base of my skull, the atlas, there is a dark spot. Atlas is where the head and the neck meet each other. My friends also told me that I'm cursed. When I was in my mother's womb, someone said I'm bound at my neck, demonic curse. I got skull-crushing headaches that are so severe that they level me to the ground. It is debilitating. She has crushed discs since when and why? That was my question. She said some neurological issues, autonomic dysfunction. She has been diagnosed with 2 brain tumors, cavernomas. The back side of the right ear, that's where she has the 2 small tumors. They have been there since birth, the other one above my left eye, straight up the bridge of my nose to a direct hit to my head. It would drop out of nowhere. I don't drive anymore, so my neck has a problem. I also have a stenosis, which is a narrowing in different parts of my spine, and my neck may have been from a fall that I had. So I asked her to describe the pain. This consultation lasted around 3 hours, so I'm going to go through a very short summary of this. She talked about a crushing headache, a throbbing, a stabbing, burning, nerve pain, electrical shock, like you put your finger in a socket. She said it is like the enemy uses my pain level against me a lot. It debilitates me. On an emotional level, I also need help. I need a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff need to be brought to the surface. Abandonment, rejection has plagued me. So the word she uses is crushing, and I'm going to ask questions about every single one of this sensation that she has in her body. So I asked her first to describe crushing. Tell me what is crushing. She said it's kind of not whole, pain, broken-hearted, sad, desperately wanting to be whole, crushed in the spirits, uncomfortable. I asked her to describe not whole. She said separated, divided, body is screaming at me inside for help. I asked her to tell us more about separated. She said not together, left alone, wanting to be healed, wanting to be loved, accepted, feeling abandoned, forgotten about, I don't exist. I start becoming tearful. She had a hard time to breathe. And then I asked myself, why? Then comes the pain. So when a patient says, I ask myself why, they're kind of asking, why is this happening to me? Why do I have to go through all of those? Kind of here, at the same time, that there was a feeling that they have been born with a bad luck, kind of an evil eye put on them. You can see it, hear it coming back here. I ask myself, why? Why do I have to go through all this pain? So I asked her, come back to the sensation. I asked her, tell me more about this divided. So every question, so crush is about not being whole is about separated, divided. So I asked her, tell me about divided. She said it's about alone. It's about being forgotten, mad, roller coaster of emotions, wanting to be together, don't want to be alone, lost, fear, anger, forgiveness. I asked her to clear her mind and imagine imagine whatever, but don't think of yourself. Just think about that whole thing and tell us what comes to your mind. And then I asked her to divide it. If you were to draw it, how would you draw it? I said, let your soul draw it. Just draw the concept of divided. And this is what she drew. She kind of drew a heart that is separated into.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think we don't see this slide at the moment. We're still on the first slide.
Oh, you're still on the first slide. What does
yes.
it? Oh.
Here we go. Yes, now we see that. Thank you.
So when I go through slides, it doesn't go to the next?
No, it didn't.
Sorry.
Now I can, yes, now we can see that.
Okay, let me make this bigger then. You see that, okay.
Okay, perfect, yes.
I thought you were, I was just reading through these different slides. Okay, so we are here, not whole, divided. And then I said, you did really well. Now do the same thing with the stabbing. She said, pain, poke, the stab, knife, hate, sadness, surprise, sharp. I asked her to talk about burning. She talked about fire, pain, ouch, help, desperate, hot sensation, discomfort. And about fire again, she says, water, help me, save me. I asked her if there was any memories related to the fire. She said, curling iron burn when I was a kid. It burned my whole forehead, a pretty good sized burn at the bend of my foot from a heating pad. It was heated and it was put on my skin. I used to roll my ankle. I was a tomboy. I had weak ankles. I played rough, skateboard, rode and jumped my mountain bike, and was active in sports as a kid, playing tennis, rollerblading, roller skating. So she was very active as a child. So I asked her to talk about shock or shocked. These are from different parts that came out during the consultation. She talks about fear, surprised, ouch, pain, being surprised, not expecting it, comes out of nowhere, quick, and it is done. Surprise came out with a stabbing also. That was my comment. Uncomfortable, sets you back, unexpected. Think of that whole energy of quick, unexpected, and it is done. She said it's about being surprised, unexpected. Here we go again. So that's the energy of shock or surprise, something unexpected that comes. And then, because that's how her body feels, that's the electrical shock that she sees in her body. So I asked her, what is the earliest memory you have? Or here we go again. She said, fighting. I always heard my mom fighting with my dad. She always was the aggressor. He was laid back and whole deal with the situation and would deal with the situation only when it got escalated. She was the disciplinarian. She would use her hand or whatever was near her to hit. Rolling pin or shoe. When she hit, it would leave her hand mark on the body. I said, what was it like for you? She said, it's scary. It would sting. She would hit multiple times depending on how mad she was. And I asked her, what is the inner experience of a child? So what I should say is I asked her about her symptoms. She talks about crush and the stabbing and electrical shocks and so on. And I listened to every one of those and try to connect it to her totality. So that when she says something, I say, well, tell me, what is your first experience of a shock or the experience of divided or experience of crushed? So here I ask again, what is the inner experience of a child who is experiencing this? She said, fear, you don't feel safe, want to be away from them. She would always try to buy her love. She was not by our love. She was not shown love and didn't want how to give love. And she would hit and then go to the store and buy something for us. She'd say sorry by buying something. I asked her about the biggest shock in her childhood. She said there was an incident back when I was 5 to 7 years old. The cops were called because of whatever reason. I took a garden hose and hit my brother on his temple. So she had that aggressivity as well. My mom said if he died, it would be on your hand. She put me in the new school, my brother and cousin breaking my arm. So this just to show you the extent of the traumas that she has gone through for her to be able to inflict that on others. And I asked her, how did you feel very deep inside growing up in that environment? She said, petrified, wanted someone to save me, felt like I wasn't loved or wanted, unloved. She almost failed in grade 5. And I asked her about cursed. She said, not blessed, always felt heaviness on me since I was a child, depression, anxiety. She talks about abandoned. It talks about her father being abandoned when he was an infant in a church in Detroit and grew up in foster homes. Never talked about his life. I don't know lineage or where I come from. Mother stayed related to demonic people in bloodline. So this idea of demon looks like is very deep in the family. Ever since brother and cousin did that in the basement, always felt a heaviness around me. That's about the sexual abuse that she went through. Used to see things at house I grew up at, demonic stuff. Would live in fear of what I saw, bloodline of pure evil. She keeps talking about the pure evil, demonic, Satan, not the Holy Spirit, not God, not Jesus, division, separation, abandonment, loss and rejection, suffering, torture, fire, hell, person in hell, physical hell, nightmares. This is kind of the summary of everything that she's experiencing. The feeling of separation and dividedness, abandonment, loss and rejection. The fire has to do with hell and torture and suffering. And the shocks have to do with every time that her system has been shocked. So now the question is, what would a homeopath do with that information? Went through her nightmares, asked her to talk about her two sides. And so once you know the homeopathic remedies and the classification of the remedies, whether you like it or not, your mind has to go to a group of families, of plant families in the homeopathic remedies that have these qualities. The group that we know are called the Malvidae family. The whole core of that family group is about being attached or detached, estranged, joined, separated, or apart. It is about being binding or bound, connected or disconnected. It's about being linked, put together, union, emotionally involved, and so on. So the feeling of separated, attached, disjointed, joint, not cared for, becoming uncaring, unconcerned, on your own, self-sufficient, self-reliant, severed, taken apart, tied, and connected. These are all themes that came up when we did the proving of the Malvidae family. There are many remedies in that family. I think the one that is probably the best known by people is the chocolate family. These are beans that are together in a pod, or like coffee family. I mean, they're not in the Malvidae, but they're a group of beans or legumes that are in the same family. They're together or they're separated, even though they're in the same pot. Those feelings come out very strongly when we study the Malvidae family. So in that group, there is one that is, when we did the proving, the idea of an evil eye put on someone came up very strongly, and that remedy is called Paganum harmala. So this is how Paganum harmala looks like. This is the fruit itself, and so it's a whole thing, but there are a lot of little seeds inside. It is used in churches and in ceremonies to cast away the evil spirit or the evil eye. If somebody thinks that they have an evil eye put on them, they usually burn them. So it is supposed to be burned to release that energy in order to remove the evil spirit. But when we did a proving of this substance, a proving means you take a part of this Peganum harmala, you crush it, you make a homeopathic remedy from it, and you give it to a group of people. That study was done in Russia over 2 decades ago. And most of the provers had this feeling that there is an evil eye or a curse put on them while they were going through this experience for a while. And it was short-lived, but because that theme came up, it was very interesting to see. But there was a lot of symptoms of connection and disconnection, joint and separation that came up through the physical proving of the patient, but also expressed on that emotional level as broken hearts, just the way she drew it. So this is the remedy that I prescribed to her, and it had a marvelous, amazing effect on her. It is called Svand or Svand in some cultures. And within the same day that she took the remedy, she said that she had the best sleep ever in her life. Now, next day, she had the worst headache of her life also, that aggravation that I talked about. So she took the remedy. When she took it, but an hour or two later, nothing happened. But then she slept and she had the best sleep. The next day, she had the worst headache of her life. And then after that, the headaches got better and better and better. And the twitching got better and the tremors got better and the shocks got better. And everything just gradually improved. And this whole idea of being cursed or being under bad luck or born under a bad star completely disappeared in her. So that's almost 2 years, and she has been improving more and more and more. This is to show that it doesn't matter how chronic is the case. It doesn't matter how severe is the case. Once you understand the core of a person and can find a remedy that covers the emotional side and covers the physical so beautifully, and you bring the two together, the healing can be very profound.
Yes, thank you so much. This is fascinating, and it tells us how important it was for you to listen to this patient so carefully and really inquire and allow her to share everything that she felt was in her mind important and relevant, because that all counted in your way of then finding the proper remedy for the headaches, right? Yeah. So we can see so clearly it's such a huge difference going to a regular doctor and getting your routine medication for migraines or headaches, which does not take into account the specificity and the uniqueness of the case, versus going to a homeopath who will spend time and inquire as deep as they possibly can to find the right remedy. And it can be a common remedy, it can be a very unique remedy. It doesn't matter in a way, it's all about what is actually matching. So I think it was really beautiful to understand, how much it takes from a homeopath as well to be able to so deeply inquire and also, have that extensive knowledge of the materia medica at the same time. So
thank you, Monica. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm glad to be.
I will be looking forward to hearing from our viewers what did they think about it, and if they have more questions about how a homeopath approaches their patients. So is there anything, Dr. Shahram, today that you would like to say to conclude our conversation?
Well, I would love to hear some feedback. So if any of your viewers like to hear any other aspects of homeopathy, any other cases, I'll be more than happy to come and share any other insights that I have, or respond to any questions that may arise out of this. And thank you again for the opportunity to being here. And I really want to encourage everyone. If everyone I come across, I tell them, you should study homeopathy. Even if you're not going to be a professional homeopath, study homeopathy. It helps you to understand yourself better and understand the world around you and have a deeper understanding of who you truly are. And also, I know that if a person's really invest their time and energy to understand these remedies, they can become a source of healing for the world. You know, this is not just about treating a headache. This idea of an evil eye and curse and the way this child was treated, this itself is a disease. We shouldn't have a society that treats children the way this child has been treated. That means the disease is very genetic. The disease is generational. It's just whatever our parents didn't learn, they inflict their children with, and they pass it on genetically to the next generation. So once we find the homeopathic remedy, we really heal something that should have been healed from the day they were born almost, because these are dispositions that the person is coming to this world with and exposed to because of whatever needed to be healed in 1 or 2 or 5 different generations. That's why I don't take homeopathy very lightly. I don't want to just treat an asthma. I want to remove the cause of the asthma that could have be related to something that happened 200-300 years ago to one of the ancestors of the person. And that's why the person is reacting to cold with asthma or reacting to cheese by having a migraine headache. The real cause is very deep, is at the DNA level, and it's related to cellular memories that we came to this world with. And the homeopathic remedies is just like a cleanser. It goes and heals those traumas or those deficiencies. You know, if I showed you a case of a mineral, it wouldn't have all this violence in it. The cases of minerals are a lot more simple, and it's about something lacking or missing and so on in their life. But each remedies on the mineral kingdom or on the bacterial kingdom, fungal kingdom, or on the plant kingdom, or on animal kingdom, they have their own healing potentials. And because we evolved from those remedies bring a very deep healing in those parts of ourselves.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. You know, I feel it really behooves us to look into our own healing, because we want to stop the cycle, as you say, the cycle of repeating the same pattern and repeating the same disease, which we're not talking about headaches. We're talking about deep diseases that are spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical at the same time. And I think that's what homeopathy deeply teaches us. Well, so thank you so much again, Dr. Shahram, and I really appreciate your time today and the fascinating case you shared. And I'm really looking forward to connecting with you more. And thank you, everybody, today for watching, whether you're watching live or will be watching on the recording. Please make sure to come back and watch more interviews that we're going to be presenting on the show. You can subscribe so that you are notified and you know what's coming up. And of course, if you have questions for Dr. Shahram, would like to delve deeper into the subjects that we discussed today, you're more than welcome to share with us. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Shahram. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Monica. Bye, everyone.